Hello and welcome to ETVFSI.com by the Economic Times. My name is Amol Dethe and I'm in conversation with Phil Carmalt, who is a APAC product head, Global Payment Solutions at Bank of America. Phil, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amal. Lovely to be here.
How's the weather in Frankfurt?
It's beautiful. I went for a stroll along the river and had a wonderful time. It's wonderful to
Fantastic.
be here in the season.
And Cybos, I think the largest event in the world, specifically when it comes to banking. How's it shaping up? What kind of themes are there? How do you see Cybos happening this year?
Yeah, there's a wonderful vibe here. I think there's more attendance than Beijing last year.
Okay.
So many banks are sending large delegates here, and topics, of course, a lot of topics around the G20 objectives to improve cross-border payments, new payments technologies, cross-border real time. So a lot of these themes are coming up.
Okay, interesting. So basically, you're focusing on the areas that are part of your profile, cross-border payments, global
Well, these
payments.
these are these are the hot topics in the payments world these days. Yeah.
Oh, certainly. So no worries. In fact, I wanted to begin from that itself. So tell me, what are the major trends that you are seeing specifically in the global payments right now?
So I mean, clearly we are seeing a shift towards 24 by 7
Hmm.
and progress, tangible progress
Hmm.
towards the G20 objectives around cost, speed, access, and transparency on cross-border payments.
Okay.
And let's talk about Asia, right? And Asia has been leading in payments innovation. For example, India's own UPI
Yeah.
has the highest instant payment transaction volumes in the world,
Hmm.
and Asia has been pioneering linking together these domestic payment systems, like we've seen bilateral links between, say, India and Singapore, Singapore and Thailand, Thailand and Hong Kong, Hong Kong and China. So all these bilateral corridors springing up, and these are
Correct.
delivering real value, right? For example, when I go to Thailand, I can now scan a QR code of a small vendor, cafe, massage shop that doesn't accept credit cards, and I can pay with my Hong Kong, bank account. So it works seamlessly. It's great. So these add a real value. The problem is all these bilateral links you have to invest in, and it can't scale very well. So that's why I guess with a realization we need to shift towards multilateral networks to scale this.
Certainly. So obviously, as you know, I'm from India and I have seen a transformation with the UPI payments. I mean, it's remarkable that we have been paying for even a smallest of small payments that we can make here in India. No doubt about it. But let me shift your focus field specifically apart from the, daily payments or UPI payments and what is happening in Asia to globally, specifically on the corporate payments, right?
Right.
When we speak about the payment transformation, right? Cross-border payment has been always the hurdle. Every bank, every regulator tried their hard, and that goal we are trying to achieve it right now. So in your view, how has been the shift specifically in the corporate payments? Is there a change in cost of transactions right now? What kind of demand that the corporates are having right now?
All right. So in terms of the shift in corporate payments,
Right.
clearly there's a continuing shift from checks and physical cash to electronic, right? Which has helped corporates. So when we talk about reducing cost, that's one key thing where corporates have been able to reduce their cost on manual cash and check handling and moving more digital and electronic. Another shift is real-time payments. So especially those corporates that have a consumer angle, whether it's a C2B or B2C,
Hmm.
leveraging real-time payments to collect faster and cheaper,
Right.
to pay just in time, to improve their customer journeys and make the magic happen. Just how, like, when you walk out of an Uber, the payment just happens. Many of our corporate clients are trying to replicate that kind of magic, and make the payment seamless. And RTP is valuable towards that. Another trend, even for those kind of B2B type industries, but let's say, manufacturing. So some manufacturers of consumer goods who previously sold B2B through distributors have launched e-commerce shops and are now selling direct to consumer. So some of those are some of the key trends in corporate payments. But I think when it comes to cross-border, it's more tricky. It's more tricky.
I mean, I will try to decode a lot specifically from you and on the cross border in my next question. But tell me something. I think you gave a great analogy that corporates also wants to follow a payment like an Uber. I mean, Uber is a great transformation, no doubt about it. Can you share maybe more thoughts on this? How the corporates would like to implement it? What exactly is the demand? Because it's ultimately a B2B business, which most of the corporates run, not a B2C, right?
No, I think clearly in the cross-border payment space, corporates are obviously very keen to get more transparency on their payments, more traceability, faster end-to-end settlement, higher certainty, right? For example, there's still globally around 1% of all cross-border payments are rejected or returned, which creates a lot of friction, right? So corporates are looking for more seamless cross-border payments, whether it's for their intra-group transactions or whether it's for their end supplier payments, right?
Okay.
So as a bank, Bank of America is obviously looking at ways to help our corporate or institutional clients improve their payments journey and reduce some of those frictions. And there are multiple ways to do that.
Noted, Phil. Now let me, talk more also about the corporate treasuries. Do you see a digital payments picking up on that side, specifically in areas like corporate treasuries? Do you see that?
So I think for digital currency payments, it's early days. You may have seen in the news that there are some corporates leveraging bank solutions on tokenized deposits, for example, right? But to be frank, interoperability is a big challenge. So,
Mhm.
for example, tokenized deposits only exist within the bank that created them. Yeah, as soon as you do a cross-bank payment, it has to be you go back to traditional rails, right? And with, for example, stablecoins are another area, a hot topic these days. But there are frictions and costs with the on and off ramping when you go from fiat to stablecoin and back to fiat. All right. So these are some of the practical challenges. I think another thing to add is many corporate treasuries don't want the complexity of holding digital assets or the complexity of connecting to blockchains. They just want the benefits, right? Without the complexity. They want the benefits of cheaper, faster, more transparent, and so on. And there are actually different ways to achieve that.
Right.
I think as banks, it's my job, it's our job to make the complex simple for our customers and find ways to solve our customers' problems and deliver value regardless of the underlying technology being used. Right.
Mm.
So my message is don't get distracted by the hype. Instead, focus on delivering real value to customers.
But do you see usage of digital and automation specifically rising on the corporate treasuries or the corporate payment side?
Automation, absolutely. And I think AI is a major trend these days, which deserves the hype because
Hmm.
AI is delivering real value.
Great.
Now, some areas where AI is relevant to treasuries, corporate treasuries, three areas I can think of, right? One is better cash flow forecasting. And if you can get a more accurate cash flow forecasting, you can then make smarter decisions on how to optimize your yield and all this kind of thing. Second is fraud detection. As especially with instant payments on the rise, we've seen fraud and scams also on the rise, and corporates want to use technology to do anomaly detection and protect themselves, right? And the third aspect is reconciliation, where again, smart AI can dramatically improve reconciliation rates. Now, how do corporates embark on this AI journey? They have three options really. One, they can build it themselves, right? They can build the technology themselves using off-the-shelf AI and customizing it. Secondly, they can partner with like TMS providers, fintech providers, right? Or third, they can
Hmm.
use solutions provided by banks such as Bank America that have
Yes.
embedded AI. Now, at Bank America, we've rolled out AI-powered solutions such as cash pro forecasting, our fraud detection algorithms, and our intelligent receivables reconciliation solutions, among other things. And the great thing is with these is that our corporate clients can benefit from these immediately without having to invest in complex AI projects themselves.
Okay, noted your points. While I see a lot of pickup specifically on the cross-border payments, corporates are also looking at it. Um, how the whole regulatory environment is? How do you see the push from the regulators? And how are, actually the challenges that the banks are trying to resolve, not just regulatory challenges, but the compliance, the risk when it comes to the cross-border payments, Phil, because it's still
Mm,
not free. Domestic payments are still far more better and convenient, but when it comes to cross-border, it's quite difficult even today.
mm. So, Amal, I think the good news is that regulators are very supportive.
Hmm.
And precisely because it is, the G20 published objectives, right, is to solve for cross-border payments. So we see regulators are very supportive, but there's different levels of progress, right? So some, for example, markets like India, like Hong Kong, like Australia, have actually made payment types, in their real-time payments, specifically for inbound cross-border, which means they officially support one leg out transactions. So you can pay from overseas into Hong Kong or overseas into Australia or India, and while being regulatory compliant. And that's very important, right? Because one challenge is today, there are some solutions leveraging domestic rails for cross-border payments in the last mile, but there are questions over regulatory compliance, right? For example, if the Benny Bank doesn't know that they're processing a cross-border payment, they don't have the opportunity to screen it properly. And then, it's a question mark. Now, what's happening in the industry is FATF, which is the international standard setting body for AML CFT, they are closing that loophole, right, with their latest consultation. So we'll see much more regulatory clarity over how these cross-border payments are supposed to go through domestic rails. So that's something that we should see happening over time. Another challenge is about when you're connecting together real-time payment systems. It's not about the technology because, these days most clearings are on ISO. It's actually technically quite doable to link them up. But the challenge is on the rule book harmonization. And that is where, industry initiatives like Nexus are spending a lot of effort, is how to do that rule book harmonization so you can get everyone to agree on a common set of rules, how you make a cross-border payment between a Singapore and a Malaysia and a Thailand and India and so on. And I think Nexus is getting some quite good traction. So we're watching that space closely.
Sure. Slightly a different question, but I think the question is about the impact that the whole world is facing on their businesses. I'm sure
Right.
you heard it right. We are talking about the Trump and the Trump tariffs, right? So the question that since you're looking at payment part quite diligently, my question to you is what kind of impact of Trump tariffs do you see specifically on the global trade, businesses, corporate houses, Will?
Right. So with the Trump tariffs, I think certainly there will be some winners and some losers. It's also creating a lot of uncertainty, right? Which is causing some businesses to pause their, major capital investments temporarily while waiting for more clarity.
Hmm.
Now, from an India perspective, personally, I believe India will fare better than many other markets.
Hmm.
And if you look at it, India's exports, which are directly impacted by the Trump tariffs, account for only about 1% of India's GDP, right? So
Hmm.
the impact is limited. And even if those exports were to fall, India can still have a GDP growth well over 6%, which is amazing, right, for a large economy. So India's economy is the fastest growing large economy in the world.
Hmm.
Strong domestic consumption-driven growth,
Hmm.
strong services exports, which are not subject to tariffs. And so India is in a great shape. In fact, India is one of the top priority markets for Bank of America that we continue to invest in.
But when we speak specifically about the Asia,
Mm.
obviously India is a growing country, the fastest growing economy. And if you look at all the high frequency indicators or the economic indicators are showing the great positivity. In fact, we are marching towards the third largest economy than from the fourth largest economy. So that story is quite intact and robust. But when you look at Asia as a whole and trade, India's trade, what kind of impact do you still think that the Trump tariff will make? Because it's not just about tariff, but the whole H-1B visa, uh,
Mm.
the trade balance, and the merchandise export. And India also has a stronger relations with USA, right? So, do you see some issues with the corporates, maybe some businesses going down or something like that?
Like I said, I think there will be some winners and some losers.
Yes.
So I think each of us need to really pivot
Hmm.
to find the opportunities and
Hmm.
find the areas which will be more resilient
Right.
and less impacted by these tariffs. So I think India is in a good shape. I still think Asia overall is in a good shape. So we still see Asia GDP growth well above 4%. So it's still in a good shape really, and tremendous opportunities in other areas. For example, we see a big trend of large multinationals continuing to set up more shared service centers and global capability centers in places like India, in Malaysia, in Philippines. And this is another key opportunity. We see AI, and like we said, AI is bringing benefits to
Hmm.
a lot of companies and businesses. So those businesses that can really monetize AI and use it to better understand their customers and optimize their revenue models and their business models. I think the upside from AI is way higher than the downside from the Trump tariffs. So I think it's really up to each of us to identify those opportunities and pursue them.
Maybe last question now, specifically again coming back to cross-border. We have seen major developments in cross-border payments. Singapore, India trade, specifically on the UPI, is happening. Obviously, there are stronger case studies, and the similar, replica is also going to be there with other countries. Point is, there are a lot of developments, specifically with the cross-border payments, no doubt about it. Whatever is happening in mind, what are the major changes feel that you think are going to happen in cross-border payments, maybe over the next 3 to 5 years?
First thing is that we will start to see commercial, go live of initiatives like Project Nexus. So right now, Project Nexus is about 2 years away from commercial launch. So in the next 2 or 3 years, we should really start to see the first multilateral cross-border real-time payment system. And I think if that gets adoption, we will see more and more corridors joining that. For example, Europe, the Euro system is talking to UPI. They're also talking to Nexus about joining as well. Now, if Europe joins that corridor, that will suddenly become much more interesting. And the second thing is that more and more banks and payment service providers and fintechs will be launching cross-border real-time solutions, right, for banks and
Yes.
corporates. Whether connecting to the industry initiatives or building their own,
Hmm.
network. So for Bank America, we're looking at how to leverage our own global network, partnerships with trusted partners, and also industry initiatives to deliver value to our customers.
Noted your points, Phil. Thanks so much for sharing all those information and the relevant points with us. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching etbfsi.com.